Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between Argos Xel'Naga and a Terran player here in the Xel'Naga Caverns. I do not know how to read this Korean name for you. I'm sure some of you guys or one of you guys out there will be able to tell me. Yeah, they say I'm hoping for a good game on this matchup. Now, Xel'Naga Caverns, a map that only has 2 spawning locations, as you guys already know if you guys have been following my cast. And I'm curious as to how the Terran player will open up. Recently, I've seen a lot of Terran players go for a 12 racks, a 12 and then followed by a 15 or 14 racks, and try to do a lot of pressure with early Marines, with SCVs, and then try to transition into the mid-game that way. We now see a supply depot being placed on the front door. Meanwhile, Argos Xel'Naga also getting an Overlord a little bit earlier than normal. He normally tries to go for, the extractor trick, but it doesn't look like he's going for that this time. And now quickly getting into 12 over 18 food, we'll be able to get a nut, and then 13 over 18 very, very quickly as one drone now makes its way out across the field. It's very important for the Zerg player and for the Terran player both to do a lot of early scouting, especially in maps where there are only 2 spawning locations. If you don't know what your opponent is going for and you scout just a little bit late, you may find yourself very, very much behind. And if there's any proxy play or any sort of really, really aggressive rush, you need to be aware of it. Taking a look into the base right now, we do see the refinery now being placed down here, so it is not going to be any very heavy barracks build as this drone now coming into this base and now just simply going to be able to walk around and get a lot of sight. You now see one SCV sitting over here, and Argos Xel'Naga opening up with an extractor and a spawning pool instead. So that means that he will... that means he will have enough enough gas for the metabolic boost. But interestingly enough, we now see an engineering bay being placed down here. Sorry, I thought the engineering bay was actually being built in the base, but that is not the case. Some players or some people are wondering why you would build an engineering bay instead of, say, a bunker. The reason behind this is an engineering bay only takes 35 game seconds to build, and because of that, it also has 850 hit points. Because the engineering bay, as it's being built, it gains a percentage, per game second. That is the largest essentially building that you can build that has a lot of hit points, and it's going to be very difficult for the Zerg player to take down, especially with that natural 1 armor. We do see an extractor now being placed down over here by Argos, so Argos denying the second gas here as we now see a barracks being placed down. And I do not see, interestingly enough, I do not see a factory or any other sort of building currently being built, any additional production building. So I'm kind of curious as to what exactly is going to be happening as a drone now trying to take down this engineering bay along with a couple of Zerglings there. So this drone will take a little bit of time as those Zerglings are now trying to come in. Is the SCV going to try to come in and repair it? That would be actually kind of funny, as this SCV is now just wandering around. If it's able to get some repairing done, it's going to be a very, very long time for these Zerglings to even deal enough damage to take down this one engineering bay. The Terran player doing a great job of simply denying this expansion location here. So those Zerglings continuing to peck away, and it will be quite some time before those Zerglings are able to finish off that engineering bay with that standard 1 armor. Back over here, one drone trying to escape will not be able to, as there are now 3 Marines and a command center being placed down. So the Terran player opting to go for a command center now will be able to lift it off and take up an expansion, and essentially we'll be able to get that expansion up a little bit earlier. And then Argos Xel'Naga, the Zerg player, going to be definitely behind. He's not even teching the tier 2 just quite yet. We do see a Roach Ward now coming in, so Argos Argos now just trying to change up his strategy a little bit in order to make sure that he's able to get enough of a macro just in case his opponent decided to go a very, very heavy barracks build. It does not look like he's going for a heavy barracks. He's now going into heavy double factory. Double factory has a number of different opportunities or a number of different strategies. He can go for a tech lab and a reactor. What that will do is it will probably indicate that it's going to be Helion Thor. Helion Thor is relatively strong. We do see only 1 gas being mined by the Terran player, so it doesn't look like it's going to be any Thors just quite yet, just because he's not going to have enough gas in order to train them up consistently. Even off of, you need both refineries in order to keep Thor production up. Marines now simply being able to move out, taking down that 1 Zergling there. And now Marines backing into this bunker once again. It doesn't look like there's any banelings. So without any banelings, this front door will be quite sealed for quite some time. There may be an Overlord, and then with roaches, may be able to deal some damage on this front door here. I believe you can actually get a unit onto the ramp here and then start firing at the supply depot without this bunker being able to fire back, just because the range 6 versus the range of 4 on those marines versus in the bunker versus that roach there. We now see drones being transferred over here to the low ground expansion. Meanwhile, this command center upgrading to an orbital command, trying to train up some additional SCVs as well, and we'll get to up to full saturation before lifting off. So he does not want to try to expand out too quickly just quite yet. He doesn't want to spread out his army too thinly, just because he doesn't really know what exactly Argos is going for. He hasn't seen the inside of his base for quite some time. There is the spawning pool and there is the roach warren, but off of that he does not see any additional tech buildings. We now see the armory currently being built as well. So the armory being laid down does indicate that it will be Thor Helion. No reactor on the factory though, so it's just going to be single training Helions. We may even see the Infernal Pre-Igniter being researched now that we see the Terran player trying to take his natural expansion over here at the 12 o'clock position. A group of Helions quickly on the move, and with Helions on the move, I know Argos Zenith has to believe that it is going to either be Banshees or Thors. So we'll see what he tries to go for, as those drones are being very, very smart and now trying to back off, making sure that they are not going to be able to get taken down. Roaches sitting on the ramp need to be very, very smart about this. And now you can see, oh, more roaches taking damage there. Those Helions trying to come in, trying to get some damage with those Infernal Pre-Ignite, or those flamethrowers. Quickly will be able to pick off some of those creep tumors there. Down they go. So one creep tumor quickly being cancelled, as those Helions going to try to deal more damage, and now those creep tumors just may get taken down just by sheer splash damage, and one creep tumor already down to 12 hit points there, as these units continue to fire back and forth. Roaches with a range of 4, and making it very difficult for the Terran player to try to kite roaches anymore. We do see an Overseer now coming in, and very nicely done, using that Overseer and contaminating the factory, making it so that he's unable to train any Thors out of that one particular building there. We now see the Overseer just wandering around over here to the north. Argos Zenith shutting down that Thor production. If we do have multiple Overseers, that may become a very prominent possibility, but however, the Overseer going to get taken down by those group of Marines. Down it goes. However, delaying that Thor was very, very critical, as we now see some additional Thors now being trained, and I believe that a Thor can actually pop out here and then actually get stuck. So I think this is a little bit of a bad placement on the Terran player. If these Thors actually try to rally out into this position, they're going to get stuck, forcing the Terran player to try to lift off his buildings and forcing him to micro even further in order to just macro up an army. Production wise, you can see those Thors are being trained. I'm going to see if those Thors actually get stuck. We do see a Spire coming online, and the Spire is a little bit of an interesting play there. That one Thor is going to get stuck there, being forced to lift off. He needs to lift off these additional production buildings. There's actually not enough room there. He needs to lift off this barracks, I believe, in order to even get out. There we go. And now he has to be careful with these production buildings, otherwise he's not going to be able to do all too much. One Thor staying by this mineral patch here, another Thor staying by this mineral patch, making sure that as Argos Zenith perhaps goes into Mutalisk, as that Spire is going to be completed, that those Javelin missiles are able to take them down. The Spire is now up. I do not see I do not see any Mutalisk now being trained, but we do have Helions now coming along that backside, and those Helions getting a lot of damage across the economic group here. More drones just getting taken down once again, even more drone kills, and that's going to be a very, very heavy hit there, as we also get a Queen taken down. We do see some Zerglings trying to come in, however, 4 Helions able more than a match for a group of those Zerglings here, and now nicely done by the Terran player. Forcing Argos to try to return all the way home, but those roaches, even on creep, are unable to catch up to those Helions. Helions moving ever so quickly. One Overlord trying to catch up to there, it will not be able to. And now with Thors also in play, these Thors are going to be able to protect these expansions pretty successfully. However, no additional Thors being trained. There are now, I believe, 5 Mutalisks in the air, and also some Banelings on the ground. So it's going to be Baneling, Mutaling. Actually, it's going to be 7 Mutalisks. So those 7 Mutalisks may be able to deal a lot of economic damage. We do have Stim Pack, we do have combat shields for those Marines, but with no starport in play, and that means obviously no medevacs, in comes the Mutalisk trying to get some damage dealt already, going after those weak SCVs. SCVs have been taken down even further. More SCVs, and now Mutalisk are going to park themselves on top of this mineral line, dealing so much damage. Those Thors unable to get to the back there. Thors moving ever so slowly, and because of all these production buildings where they're currently located, all just packed up in right into that location. Very, very bad sign for those SCVs. SCVs now trying to back off. In comes 1 round of Javelin missiles, or 2 rounds, enabling all of these Mutalisks to now be down to 25 hit points there. So those 2 Thors getting off 1 round of Javelin missiles each, able to force those Mutalisks to now return home. Mutalisks are very expensive units. You do not want them to get taken down that easily. Those Mutalisks, however, will slowly regenerate their hit points once again, as these Mutalisks are just keeping track of the expansions in play. We do see some Marines now trying to come in over here. Does not want to try to engage. We do have some Thors here as well. Those Thors may be able to get some more Javelin missiles into the carapaces of those Mutalisks. And once again, there we see, and now down goes, oh no Mutalisks getting taken down there. Oh, 2 getting taken down, finally 1 with the help of a missile turret. And now a lot of damage being dealt across multiple Mutalisks. Those Mutalisks need to return home, get some queens in order to try to just heal those, transfuse those Mutalisks. Once again, we now see creep tumors being spread out across the map, so the creep tumors doing a great job of giving a lot of sight. We do see a command center now being built over here. 1 Marine now trying to make its way over to perhaps shoot down that 1 Overlord that's denying this one particular expansion, and with that creep. However, the Mutalisk quickly going to come in and finish off 1 Marine. A 2nd Marine may get taken down, and we also see SCV and may be exposed as well. Helions also trying to come in, but those Helions not going to do very much. And now we see the pathogen glands and infestors currently being trained. Those infestors are going to be very, very effective, especially with those pathogen glands, as the Thors and siege tanks and Marines now are once again on the move. Siege tanks already have siege tech. There is 1 hatchery down here. This hatchery is not long for life, as that quickly will get taken out. However, there are Mutalisks coming in as well. Mutalisks able to take down that last missile turret, and now there's going to be a free reign on some of these Mutalisks. The Mutalisks perhaps can just get some chain damage here. However, Marines, siege tanks, and Helions doing a lot of damage. Broodlings unable to even get within firing or clawing range on some of those units over there. We do have a couple of those Marauders now trying to go after those infestors trying to run away, and now with those infestors being spotted, the Terran player knows that he has to be very, very careful. Otherwise, 1 or 2 fungal growths with banelings are just going to completely shut down this game. Argos Zenith knows exactly where he is, and now using scanner sweeps in order to take down those creep tumors is going to be a very, very bad sign. We do have 2 infestors, 1 fungal growth already coming in, and now Baning simply just going to walk into this fight here, and so much damage dealt across multiple Marines. Perfect timing on that attack. Beautifully done by Argos Zenith. Just waiting for it, baiting his opponent. Those siege tanks just unsieged for just a moment, and because of that, those siege tanks were unable to start tearing apart those banelings. Banelings do have 1 armor, so those siege tanks will not be able to single shot a baneling. And now Mutalisks are in the air. Mutalisks going to run straight into a group of Thors. That is not a good sight there. Down goes 2 Mutalisks, and no, those Thors could have finished off those last 2 Mutalisks there. Not quite sure why they moved away. We do see 1 Overlord just trying to wander around even further, as there are a couple Overlords here. So mass roach army by Argos Zenith. And now taking a look at the unit combinations, we have 27 roaches, 15 banelings. That is a lot of units being built out so far, and now Baning simply trying to suicide into this group. Very nicely done, splitting up those Marines. But however, the roaches are now coming in from behind those siege tanks, trying to get it back into siege mode, and the roaches are going to finish this off. Nicely done once again. So these roaches timing that attack absolutely perfectly, as the Terran player tried to micro his Marines and split them up in order to make sure that they did not take that much splash damage. Ended up taking a lot of damage from the roaches instead, especially as those siege tanks were trying to re-siege. Stay tuned for part 2 of this replay between Argos Zenith and a Terran player that I do not know because I can't read Korean, here in the Xel'Naga Caverns.